Today, we're going to talk about automation and how that affects our economy. And are you going to still have a job in 5 years? These are the questions we need the answers to. So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about automation. So, I'm going to assume all of you have at least some sort of cursory understanding of what automation is. I don't think you'd be able to watch YouTube if you didn't know, at least the basics. And so we see automation picking up from 1970 onwards. We see things like industrial robots. If you see this little Wall-E looking guy over on the right, that's an example of an industrial robot. We have software automation. You can think of Excel and their equations and how that cuts down on human computing power. You have CNC machinery, which are essentially like Raspberry Pis, where you can program robotics. And then we have the new domain of automation, which is artificial intelligence, and specifically all these GPTs and large language models. And if you're not aware of what automation can really achieve, next time you go to a sushi restaurant, be on the lookout for this guy chopping up your sushi. Robotics is and automation is coming, and it's already here in a lot of ways, and it has the potential to really shake up our economy. And so let's talk a little bit about how the economy has been progressing. So since the 1970s, this graph doesn't go all the way back then, but since the 1970s, we see a lot of economic inequality, meaning that the richer keep getting richer, while the poorer and the middle class are stagnating, more so than the extremely wealthy, which just keep getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. Look at Elon Musk and how wealthy he is. So we also see, like I said, low-income jobs. They're not giving as much money comparatively. And we see that a lot of jobs have moved away. We've moved away a lot from factory jobs because we can get robots like this little guy to do our job for us. And so when we break down this idea of how automation is going to affect our economy, we have to talk about the task model. And this is very, very basic stuff. So the task model says that products and services are broken down into all the tasks that are required to complete them. And so, you have some tasks like picking up coffee for your manager. You have some other tasks like entering a bunch of data to Excel. You have some tasks like screwing a wrench onto a bolt, screwing a bolt, whatever. You get the point. And so automation is going to be able to replace the routine and repetitive tasks. So entering all that stuff on Excel, making those pesky phone calls. And so from automation, we see two effects. The first is we get a big productivity effect because now automation can do jobs of humans, but maybe even better than a human. How fast does it take a calculator to calculate opposed to you? I mean, unless you won the math Olympiad, you're going to be pretty slow. And so already the computer just does things faster. Automation does things faster and better in a lot of circumstances. And so we get increased productivity, meaning it costs less to make goods and services. But there's also a displacement effect because guess what? You had a job being a human calculator before, but then the calculator was invented and now you don't got a job. So where's your job going to come from? I guess you're just going to be homeless. So let's talk about the labor effect. So you don't have a job anymore because your job was taken over by the calculator. And so now we have a polarization. You had, an okay job. You needed at least a high school degree to do your job. Maybe even you needed a college degree to do your job as the calculator. These are the kind of jobs that artificial intelligence and automation is going to take over. They're going to take over the mid-skilled jobs, administrative tasks, being on call centers, doing all the routine and repetitive tasks. And then you got the low-skilled jobs, which is manual labor. You know how hard it is to screw something in? A robot can't do that as easily as it can work on a calculator. And so we're going to have an increase in manual labor type jobs, service jobs. the low skill jobs. We're also going to see that the high skill jobs are also going to increase. So things like STEM, management, the really high cap ceiling jobs, they're going to increase in size and an amount of jobs. And so high skill jobs are going to benefit from automation because these high skill people, they're going to be able to utilize automation for their benefit. It's not going to completely take them over. And we see that jobs with a lot of automation in them, they're seeing stagnating wages. So let's look at some regional and demographic effects that automation can have. So depending on your age, you're going to be affected differently. So, right, if you're like 3 years old right now, you don't even need to worry about this stuff. And by the time that you're going to get ready to get a job, you're already going to know what the landscape is. You're already going to see, okay, I guess I can't work as a calculator because we have an actual calculator to do that. I guess I can't work at a call center because guess what? ChatGPT is doing all the call center tasks. So I guess I'm going to go work at McDonald's. I haven't figured out a robot to do that yet, or something of the sort. But guess what? If you're 50 years old and you're like, how do I turn on this computer? How do I do anything? My life is just entering things into Excel as it has been for the past 20 years. It's a lot harder to get a job and to transition jobs when you are older, not only because our cognition tends to decline and we get set in our ways, but you've already built up your career, and your career could have, it's hard to completely shift careers, especially if you're in the late stage of your career. And so being older is unfortunately going to hurt you more. But not all hope is lost, and we'll talk about that. And so we also have some regional effects, such as in the Rust Belt. That's seen a lot of changes due to automation, and a lot of the factory jobs that were there have gone away because of automation. And then we have some countries that are being, what's that? Proactive? What does that word mean? It means they're anticipating this and they're coming up with solutions. Couldn't be us, but it couldn't be the United States, but Germany and Japan, they've actually come up with some ideas on how to fight this, how to build a society around these changes. And so what kind of things have Japan and Germany been doing, and what kind of things can we be doing? Well, Japan and Germany, they have really worked hard to increase the education of their workforce, pushing more people into those higher skill jobs so that we don't have as many low skill jobs that, are typically not as, well, definitely don't pay as much. And they've also, some things you can do from a policy level is sort of push for some AI augmentation instead of complete taking over our jobs. AI will just augment our jobs and help us do our jobs, but not fundamentally replace our jobs. And some of the things that we can also think about doing are automation taxes, so goods and services that are generated from automation. Automation is not really a person, but if you got a robot doing a job, it's kind of similar to a person is doing all this labor. So maybe you make an extra tax on goods and services that were made from automation. And maybe you can do something like take all that money and put it into a universal basic income, and then everybody gets some money. So these are some of the ways that our society is changing due to automation, and I'd love to hear your opinions, and I'd love you to tell me how bad my opinions are and why you think my opinions are bad. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'd love to hear some discussion in the comments.